At the next Smoko stop, Brad shows his tour party where they are and where they'll be going.
And we've just come across Providence Creek. Up to this junction here, you can see that one joins on back to the main run through that we'd be normally taking to Birdsville. However, what we're going to do here is turn left and run directly across Sturt Stony Desert. We'll take through a lot of the lake country and come out, hopefully, at Wirupiri Tank, which then gives us a clear run through back onto the Birdsville track and into Birdsville. This distance is 100 k's. I expect that it will take us 2 days. And we've got a lot of lake country, we've got a lot of sand dunes, and you know, to say it will take 2 days or it might take us a week, who knows? All right, but we are planning on only one night stop. This is the actual turn off here. We'll follow this track for about 2 or 3
This large king brown snake decided to head for the peace and quiet of the bush. Here, you choose your own road. The cars were overheating, and so too were the people in the desert sun. There were only 2 trees in sight, so the party decided to take advantage of the tiny bit of shade available, although it made for a tight squeeze under the trees, and enjoyed a lunch break. Brad's car has a radio phone, a vital piece of equipment when venturing far off the beaten track. It means that in any emergency, the party can call for help from anywhere in the country. Another necessary piece of equipment for this type of driving. Where there are no roads or signposts, a compass bearing is the next best thing. The Great Stony Desert is covered in sand, scrub, rocks and bogs.
We're 5 minutes into the desert and we've lost 2 cars already.
This was to set the scene for the next few days.
Make that 3 cars.
All 3 vehicles got bogged. Out in the desert, nothing is straightforward. The Nissan had to be winched sideways. A good test for the worn winch supplied by ARB.
Okay, from... No, because that'll pull it around that way. What I want to do is pull it back over this way, which will pull the front back.
The troop carrier also had to be winched sideways. It wasn't pleasant. The mud stank and the mosquitoes seemed the size of crows.
Stay near the hook.
What we're going to try and do is winch the Nissan in between the two Toyotas and up to another tree which is about 200 metres away.
Luckily, there was a tree near the edge of the bog.
The tree we're winching onto has got a young eagle in it.
Bob and Stan always make sure they have chafe straps on hand to protect any tree they have to use as an anchor. Chains can ring bark a tree before you know it, leaving it to die. The Nissan is the first to be pulled out. It performed well for the entire trip, and the only thing that Alan could fault was the set of standard road wheels. One down, two to go. Both Bob and Stan recommend that you have a minimum of 3 cars if you're planning a desert crossing. And make sure they all have winches. You'll need at least 300 to 400 feet of cable, plus some come-alongs. You're going to need plenty of fresh water. It's hot, thirsty work, and even the passengers who are confined to the vehicles get thirsty. Bob's party had to ration water. It was a bit hard for the kids, but they all understood. On the first day in the desert, the party didn't make much distance. The fire is great to keep off the chill of the desert, but it didn't worry the incessant mosquitoes.
We came over this crest down here and I thought, oh, there must be a surf on the other.
Day 2 in the desert. Let's see how far we get. Just 100 yards from the overnight camp, and bogged again.
Bob, you won't want to drive yours straight up, it'll come straight through.
The Nissan took a different route and made it to the top of the hill. It'll be the anchor for the winching process.
Driving off that now?
The desert normally resembles a moonscape, with rocks, rubble and craters, but the rains have brought dormant seeds to bloom, softening the landscape. Brad's Bush Trek Land Cruiser and trailer tip the scales at just over 4 tons and gets bogged at the drop of a hat. Jack, with the camera, is a journalist for Australasian Post. And Bob in the check shirt is a bank manager, having a taste of the great outdoors. It's another very hot day, and it's back to the winching.
On the deck on the table, mate. Quite a few.
This is a double winch. Two vehicles hooked up, and both pulling as hard as they can. A never-ending story of frustration. Another 300 yards and, you've guessed it, bogged again. The dirt is like talcum powder. And if this isn't enough, the troop carrier is boiling badly. Time to add more precious water. Bob isn't just battling the elements. He has to keep warmly dressed in spite of the heat of the midday sun in the desert. He suffers from asthma and had such a severe attack that the rest of the party nearly called in the Royal Flying Doctor Service from Broken Hill. This time, the angle of the trucks when they bogged caused concern, besides making them damned hard to winch out. A problem easily solved when all the passengers sat over to one side. Although all of the trucks had special diffs fitted before the trip, even that couldn't guarantee traction. This was the only time on the whole desert crossing that the team had to shovel mud away from the wheels. Just look at that mud. No wonder it took 3 days to travel 80 kilometres across desert wastes. Then came a call on the radio. The Nissan and the troop carrier seemed to be able to traverse most of the boggy areas, but Brad's heavily laden Land Cruiser got stuck regularly.
And he said he's found the path, he thinks, out of here.
Right.
he hasn't yet, but he's got
So everyone's a bit keen to get the Birdsville tonight?
Right. We'll have to go up anyway.
What needs to go up the Catscott?
I beg your pardon.
I mean a little bit.
A little tiny bit.
Some of the desert burrs are more than 2 inches long and tougher than steel. Alan gets one in the tyre of the Nissan. Bob and his son Michael lend a hand. Oops, now Bob has a flat.
Great spot to jack up. Ground very hard.
Leaks here somewhere.
Brad's trucks run on tubeless tyres, and he demonstrates a simple repair method.
Just put a plug in it, should be okay.
Simply enlarge the hole, insert a plug, and inflate. Now Brad is stuck, and Bob is boiling. But the general feeling is, so what's new? The Nissan Patrol did the hard work and pulled out the stuck vehicle, while everyone joined in to push. Some of the burrs can penetrate through the soles of boots, so they all had a good look before they put their feet down to push. Now the going over the big dried up swamps is good, and the bogs are rapidly left far behind as the party leaves the desert on the way to Birdsville. Brad's car boils, so both Toyotas get a much needed refill. It pays to almost overload on water when you travel out here. You never know when you'll need it and for what. At Wirripiri Bore, all of the water containers are filled up again. Perhaps it's because they haven't seen water for a long time, but the murky water really tastes terrific. This bore is always full, and the endless desert winds turn the windmill pump continually, bringing the life-giving water to the surface.
Well, we've finally made it off the old Birdsville track, and we're onto the new one. And we've also crossed the desert.
It feels like the Great Western Highway after those days of crawling through untracked desert, over and through bog after bog, even though the bad conditions only lasted for 80 k's.
Let's go on one of our trips. This is probably one of the hardest trips that we've ever completed. We've done it several times. It's up in far north Queensland, Cape York, between Usher Point and Captain Billy's Landing. We call it the beach run. Kilometres from the turn-off of the Bamaga Road to Usher Point. Only the last 6 kilometres now is 4-wheel drive. The rest of the road has been graded by the islanders.
Okay, we're back on the Usher Point Road. The track we've just come off takes you down to Henderson Creek. It's around about 26 kilometres off the Usher Point Road to Henderson Creek, to the beach. And that trip will take about 2.5 hours. If you've got a boat up on the roof or a high roof rack, it'll take a lot longer. The track's only used probably by about a minimum of 10 to 12 cars a year down there, because no one's heard about it until we actually opened it up. And if you go down there, you'll get your water out of the Satch Waterhole, the big dam, the big lake on the right-hand side. It's full of crocs also, and there's good fishing on that. After that, you'll either camp underneath the rainforest canopy just before the beach, and if it's not windy, you can camp on the beach proper. Now, from the Henderson Creek turn-off on the Usher Point Road to Usher Point, it's only about 6.5 kilometres down to the beach. There's a steep drop down to the beach, and you have to go to 4-wheel drive before you go into it. And the left only takes up a few hundred yards. You can't go any further. To the right, you can go down to the Logan Jack Creek. To get around that, you have to wait for the lowest tides to do it, because you have to go around rocks and deep creek crossings. To cross the Logan Jack, you have to wait until the tide is dead low, and then you'll drive through around about knee-deep water or a little less on the lowest tide. We usually camp just the south side underneath the coconut palms, or halfway down the beach to the next little creek, and in behind the dunes. Before you go down there, you have to take the water from the small springs that come out of the rocks about halfway down the beach to the Logan Jack River. It takes us a little time to fill those containers, because it's only light drops and small springs. If you're planning to do the Orpha Bay run, you have to get the lowest tides. We'll be crossing it in a few days' time on about a 6-4 tide. And after that, there's still a lot of hard work, and you still have to work by the tides.
Remember, before you hit the beach, let your tyres down to 15 pounds. When driving through thick scrub, it's a good idea to keep your windows up. Not only it stops the sticks from hitting you in the face, but it stops unwanted visitors, as you'll see shortly. She has got the most prickliest feet. You feel that, Bob? Better walk on your hand. You feel how prickly. Aren't they prickly? Bob wants to give it back.
No, only because I didn't have another hand.
No, thank you.
Irish?
No, thank you.
Alice, come and grab this.
For the next 65 kilometres, the cars will be driving on 15 pounds pressure, even though the surface conditions will change 100 times from rocks to sand. There's no time to stop and pump your tyres up for the rock crossings, as you're continuously fighting the tides. When we drive along the sandy sections, we leave our vehicles in 2-wheel drive. As long as your tyres are down, the cars will handle the sand alright. By leaving the vehicle in 4-wheel drive, over a long period, there's a lot of stress to the transfer case, gearbox, motor and diffs. When the car starts to slow down or start to bog down, it's easy just to slip the handle into 4-wheel drive and away you go. All of the vehicles' radiators are covered with canvas, and the petrol cars, the distributors have been covered with grease and Celastic. We've also loosened all the fan belts on all the cars.
This Logan Jack River would have to be one of the prettiest rivers on the east coast of Cape York. Just coming up to us here is a big sand hill. It's about 130, 140 foot high, and it drops straight down into the Logan Jack River. The other rivers we travel in are only mangrove lined and rocks, but this one here seems to have more sand and sand dunes than any of the others that we've travelled in so far. Look at the colour of that sand. Water. So this is where the Logan Jack River actually starts from. Swamp, trickling water into a bit of a deep pond in front of us, and then starts heading out to sea as a log and stump riddled freshwater stream and widens up as it goes. And then we come into the mangroves, down further into the paper bark, and into the main river. The start of the Logan Jack is approximately 9 kilometres from the ocean. Small crayfish. You hit that hard. The way you hit, I thought it would have been a big one. That's the results of 15 minutes of fishing at the mouth of the Logan Jack River. Whoa. There's enough there to feed our group. We didn't catch any more. We caught enough. That's it.
What, Bob?
Yeah, mate.
Thanks, Josh.
Yeah, what are you gonna fill them all? Fill them all?
Yeah. We're about 2 kilometres south of the Logan Jack, at what we call the Unnamed Creek. 3 years ago we were here, and there was a Toyota Land Cruiser bogged. There wasn't any people around, but the strange thing is, the marks where the Toyota was bogged are still here, 3 years later.
Yeah, you see why people don't come here, you know. You just can't carry the fuel here.
Yes, Bob. Just checking to make sure you're on the channel, mate. It's very important we keep radio touch all the way over this crossing.
We've got water coming inside the car.
We left Logan Jack this morning around about 9:30 and drove about 2 kilometres along the beach just to wait another hour so we can get the right tide to do the crossing over Orford Bay. The first leg now is on the way. We've just crossed the deepest of the two creeks that we have to cross. The rest will be shallow creeks and soft sand and a bit of mangrove mud. And we've got about 9 to 10 kilometres to go to Orford Bay and Orford Ness, the main southern entrance.
Where the old car is that was lost there 2 years ago.
That's all we want is 2 days in Cairns to enjoy the shopping and the civilisation which we have missed for nearly 2 weeks. And to buy a pair of shoes and a bag and clothes and a pig out. Did you come back?
We've made halfway across Orford Bay from the main crossing down south. We've got probably the hardest thing in front of us. Deep drop off about 200 yards in front of us towards our exit. And then mud and swamp before we get to the hard sand, and that's the dangerous part, and after that it's all easy going. About 20 minutes. It's time now to make a go, but there's still half hour of the run out tide in front of us. So I think it's time to make a run, and I'll make the run. The rest to follow.
How's it going, Jeffrey?
No problem. You just went over the top of my wheel stack.
Okay, mate. Just going to take it nice and slow so none of that water gets into the alternator. Think there might be some fresh water in this, Bob?
I reckon it should be all salt there, mate, so far.
I think so.
When we came through, there was a big school of mullah heading out to sea.
inside the cabin.
Yeah, you're over your wheel.
I might have picked a deeper spot. I can see Paul in behind me on the mirror.
I've got a good eye on him.
We're halfway across Orford Bay. We've still got about 15-20 minutes to kill, so we're going to have a look at the old Land Cruiser Ute that's laying over here in the mud. And by that time we have a look at that and get a bit of a shot of that and a few photographs, it's time to finish the journey off over to Orford.
We drive as close as we can to the water's edge on low tide because that's where the hardest sand is. If we had any mechanical troubles or bogged the vehicles where they are now, we would only have a few hours to get them out. About 40 kilometres south of this wreck, there's another wreck. A short wheelbase Land Cruiser tried to make a short creek crossing. It got bogged and the owners couldn't get it out, and the car was just left there. 2 years later, we went back to have a look at the wreck, but the sands had completely covered the car, and all that was left were the top of the roof racks. Come out slowly.
I'll tell you what, if this is fair, we can take that back to Newbern Pedal and Paint. Got rid of it.
You didn't like it?
Okay, we'll give it a go now. The tide's not down as low. We'll give it a go now. The tide's not down as low as what we would like it to be, but we'll make a break for it and see how we go.
Next little creek here, Bob, where you're just heading towards the Jabberoo, you've got to turn to your left and go up where the tree is.
Yeah, I'll get up there, Stan, and then I'll spin around and have me winch cable ready in case someone gets caught in the mud.
Okay.
Another creek crossing coming up.
We've got some sharks ducking in around us up here, Bob.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, mate. The tide's coming in. They're looking for fish to feed on.
Yeah, they've been
swimming around the outside of the car. I can see that Jabberoo over on your right now.
Yeah, I saw a shark. Yeah, it's just on about 2.5 foot long. I'm heading out a little bit wider through another creek to get on the hard sand for this last crossing.
You can't go back that shot. Get into it. You have to get right up in here, Jeffrey, because the last 10 foot gets a little bit soft sometimes. Here we go. We're going to plan it.
We're doing it.
Way across.
So you can stay in Rotten Extract.
Kids have been picking up hundreds of shells. Got them everywhere. Oh, look at that.
Oh, Martin, Stockton bottle. And it'd be about 80-year-old. It's wedged in the rock there. For how many years, I would never know. But I'm trying to get it out without breaking it. There she is. Marching soft drink, applied top. The bottles after that had a glass screw, but this one's had a cork in it. Probably come off some old shipwreck. Magic stuff.
only 5 kilometres short of Captain Billy's Landing. Once again, the tides beat us. We've had to camp on a little peninsula. We've got Cascade River on the right-hand side of it. We've got the ocean on the left-hand side. We just can't get around that point. Tomorrow morning, low tide will be around about 11 o'clock, and we'll reach Captain Billy's by then.
Walking through the mangrove swamp here, all this low-lying area floods in the wet season. Behind me, about 60, 70 feet of the mangroves. This mound here is a crocodile's nest. The whole area here is scattered with about 12 to 18 that we've counted so far of these crocodile mounds. Now this is where the crocodile will come in and nest in the wet season.
If you ever contemplate doing a journey like this, always remember to carry spare fuel. There's a second container we've put in here, and our vehicle is diesel. Well done. We've done the automator, the regulator, the battery terminal. That's it.
Well, all the vehicles are packed. We're just waiting for the low tide, which is around about 11:30. We have to have the low tide to make one crossing around down to Captain Billy's, which is a cliff crossing, and we actually have to drive through salt water there anyway. So vehicles are all sprayed, all our alternators are sprayed, battery leads, all electrics. And we'll drive into Captain Billy's, possibly shoot down, have a look at Captain Billy's Creek, and then on to the Double Mouth Creek. If the tides are starting to come in, we can't do that run. We'll have to wait another couple of days.
How's it looking funny, Bob?
Yeah, the sand's very hard, but you've still got a lot of those little salty creeks to come through. We're approaching the oyster rocks.
We'll take you to the country. If you survive, we'll bring you back. No air conditioned buses here. Off the track.
A lot easier this time, ain't it, Bob? Probably the most exciting part of the whole journey. Constant race against the sea to get to Captain Billy's. There's always the risk of getting bogged on the soft sand. If you get bogged here, that's it, your journey's over. As well as the sand, we've got to get around the headlands, which are pretty treacherous, a lot of sharp rocks, and there's always a danger of losing tires. So it's a real test of the vehicles as well as the drivers, and now that we're all here, we're pretty happy about it. We're going to push off now to Cairns from here, so our journey's almost over. What we've got to get through from here on is going to be a lot easier, thank God. It's been a great journey and I've really enjoyed it. Thanks, Bob. We're in the team shed at Captain Billy's Landing. Years ago when we arrived here, it was horrible. There was all artefacts laying all over the place that people have collected along the beach, walls, old canoes,
But the National Parks and Wildlife have done a really nice job and they've cleaned it all up. It looks terrific now.
When all the stuff was hanging in here, behind me was a big 8-foot dugout canoe, and below it was a 4-foot dugout canoe in pretty good condition. Plus all the things that people have gathered to try and make this a sort of a Cape York type museum. We arrived here at National Parks and had a big fire out here and burned everything, even the dugout canoes. It goes to show you, even they don't even like preserving artefacts like that. Now the place is just a drab, dead shed.
The Never Never Track is located 440 kilometres northeast of Alice Springs. On the northern edge of the Simpson Desert, here you'll find Lindsay Bookie's country, an Arrendar man who grew up around Tobermory. Lindsay is custodian of a 7,000 square kilometre area across to the Queensland border. Lindsay is keen to share his culture and, with the assistance of his friend, Joel Fleming of Direct 4-Wheel Drive, offers intrepid travellers the chance to explore this patch of wilderness under their guidance. The track from Lindsay's camp, which has all mod cons, starts out as a super sandy desert highway, but soon dwindles. Vision is bounded on one side by a stretch of dune, and on the other side by a trail of trees and coral sand that is the Hay River. Each trip is visually different. Here, the rain a couple of weeks ago has brought out the wildflowers. The desert is full of roaming camels brought in by explorers and early settlers. Our isolation is visited by a curious busted bird, and budgerigars swoop overhead. Dingoes flicker into view before disappearing back into the foliage. Lake Caroline is a special place. A series of flat clay pans in breakaway country reach through a crossing down the soft sands of the Hay River, past the Soak, where Lindsay tells us the Soak is where water can be reached if you dig long enough, and past the Mid with its treasure trove of flints and chips from an older culture. The track to Mount Lucky has barely been travelled by Europeans since the explorers came through in the 1800s. Its condition reflects this roller coaster ride in country that belongs to the Aboriginal people, bush turkeys, camels, kangaroos.
We've just let Lake Caroline turn off and we're now heading over towards Mount Nucky on roughly a northeast heading. The track across to Mount Nucky is about 60 kilometres and it pretty well follows a straight line course. The vegetation is pretty light and pretty easy driving. The country's very, very remote. It's, as far as I know, hasn't been visited by white people since the days of the explorer Winnicky and possibly Lindsay back in the late 1800s. And so the people coming across here today are probably the first white people that have been through here for over a century.
Making camp at Mount Nucky for a couple of nights gives Lindsay a chance to show off one of the highlights of his country. Soils pounded solid by waters millions of years old form the ancient ridgeline, which is the backdrop to the camp. Here, a chance to sit around the fire and yarn after a few challenging hours driving is most welcome. Sometimes bush tucker, bush turkey or kangaroo, cooked traditional way, is on offer. Lindsay's pride in his country and his ancestry shines through his quiet manner as he tells the story of his mother's grandfather who cut into this tree with a stone axe in pursuit of food like lizards and grubs.
Yeah, they cut it. Stone axe. And cut that up. Yeah, here's the double.
In some seasons, depending on the weather, Mount Mackie boasts waterholes. Regardless, the mountain is impressive in its rocky structure. Its caves sheltering bats and lizards, and the gullies where in an older time people used hard stone to scrape their symbols and art into the softer rock surface of the hillside. Our return trip was rewarded by a much-needed shower at Lindsay's camp after travelling between 400 and 500 kilometres of country whose isolation offers travellers a chance to get close to the indigenous people of the Simpson Desert as they experience the impact of the remote red centre, the howling of the dingoes under the sky overflowing with stars, and the challenges of driving the Never Never track.